right, so that was a clip from a song called Prologue on Aralee Dorough's new album, The Tarot Canticles. And you might recognize her name because we did an interview with her about her album, The Voyage of Blackwood. And this is an unbelievable album. I absolutely love it. I still listen to it regularly. Fantastic. And this Tarot Canticles album is brand new. Came out just recently. So we have Aralee here with us. Aralee, welcome to the program, I guess.
Thank you, Anthony. Wow, it was such a treat. I think it's almost 2 years ago we did the interview, and yeah, I had such a good time and really appreciated your interest. And I brought some instruments.
Yeah, let's tell us all about them. You play a lot of instruments, and I'd love to explore some of your creative world here that went into this new album.
Oh, great. Yeah, the tarot cards link to my childhood, actually, because just having fun with all those kinds of things, horoscopes, the zodiac, and palm reading, and ESP, and UFOs. And we had a deck of tarot cards and a book about them. So I very much think of them as my childhood. I also think of playing a lot of instruments as a child because I grew up in a musical home. And my father was very creative, and he was always making a game out of playing music and writing things that the whole family could play. So in a way, this album is a throwback to my childhood, which is when I first started writing music. My mother and father and I used to play recorder trios as a pastime. So there's a little bit of recorder in the music. The flute is my real instrument, my professional instrument. And I'm actually pleased that I didn't use the flute very much in this new recording, whereas Voyage of Blackwood is sort of based on my instrumental abilities on the flute.
Yeah, I wanted to say, after listening to The Voyage of Blackwood so many times, the first time I put this CD on, it's like, is this the same person? These albums are polar opposites in many senses. And then secondly, there is so little flute across much of the album, except for you play certain melodies here and there, but there's plenty of woodwinds, and it's got a much more, I don't want to say avant-garde rock sort of feel, but it does have drums, percussion, electric guitar, and bass, and it's just you and two other musicians playing all these different instruments. So, talk through a little bit more. Who joined you in this band, the Colin and Corinne Gatwood, and how'd you arrange this whole album?
So I kept getting these little bits of ideas, and then when I would meet with Marcus, he'd say, like, "Oh, I like that," and it's taking shape. I was picturing all sorts of like stage tech with like big visuals, something that is like way outside my ability to get done, like a show. And Marcus said, well, just record the pieces first. Like, you should record them before you, have a huge ensemble cast or whatever. And that will be the Urtext, the original. That'll be like the score. So I went with that idea. And then my next idea, I said, well, maybe it should just be instruments I can play. So, I can kind of play the piano. And then I said, what if it's instruments that we can play here in this house, my husband and my son? And Marcus liked that idea. That gave it some parameters, some restrictions. And the other part of it was we wanted to, and this was also Marcus's idea as the producer, that instead of recording it at home, which we could have done, it would have been easier and more leisurely, and might still not be finished, He thought it should all be recorded in one go, kind of, sort of went with the spirit of a card reading, like you shuffle your cards, you put them out, boom, that's your story for the day. So, and I guess more importantly, sonically, he thought it could be really beautiful if it had a really, I don't know, something unifying about where it was recorded. And so that led us to go overseas on a journey to Italy, to Ritmo e Blu studio, which is a lovely place. Stefano Castagna is the engineer there, and his wife Evelina is the studio manager, and it's out in the country. So we had 6 days to kind of be there and play some of the unusual instruments that they had in their studio. They had a Rhodes keyboard, lots of percussion instruments, an electric organ, and so yeah, it was just fantastic.
That's great. And then you've got this beefy guitar next to you as well. But I do want to just touch on one quick thing. I don't know if you listen to The Residents, but I feel like this is an album they would have produced. It's got a very similar sort of angular feel with, in a lot of the later Residents albums, there's a lot of spoken word. Not that your thing is spoken word, you are talking through a reading, but it doesn't sound like you're reading something. And in addition to the beefy guitar thing and The Residents, you're also basing this album on a book, so it'd be great to cover all three of those things.
Oh boy, well, I am a little bit familiar with The Residents through my son Corin. He got interested in them. I love The Residents. I also, back to childhood, I have really fond memories of going to a workshop with my parents in the Orff Kindermusik way of teaching. Again, I don't know why we went. I think I was 10 or 11, and it was in Vermont. And my parents took some of the workshops for adults, and then I was in the children's class, and we played lovely pieces with xylophones and marimbas and like miniature timpani. Beautiful instruments for children. You can take the bars off, so you can take everything off except like C and G or something, and teach someone to play that pattern, and then someone else could be playing. So that was another source of my early compositional ideas, were these instruments and the idea of layering ostinatos or patterns. So I'm really proud of the piece that is called Daybreak, because it uses the 4 keyboard instruments that we had, and we were running out of time, so it was like a one-take improv I had already sort of made for there are 4 suits of cards. Each has different characteristics. So I had sort of an A minor thing that was supposed to be wands. That's action, creativity, work, and then there's a water theme, which is kind of pentatonic. Each had its different like set of rules of what pitches would be in it, and then I improvised on the 4 keyboards, and then we chopped the tracks to fit the what I needed for the narration, because that's where the narrator's explaining the 4 different suits and then also the shuffling.
All right, well, I'm going to cut you off there. Let's listen to Daybreak a little bit.
Pictures. There are 78 cards. Six of these cards are divided into 4 suits: wands, cups, swords, and coins. Let's mix the cards. Each suit has a distinct quality that corresponds to one of the 4 elements. Pay attention to these elements in your daily life. Pay attention to the lesser secrets. Fire. Earth.
I'm not quite ready to do both parts at once. That was cool, the riff that the Fool is based on.
What is this instrument you're playing?
It's a touch guitar designed by Marcus Reuter, and I've been studying this instrument for a couple of years. I'm still very much, in the early stages of technique, but I was very excited that I got to record with it. That there are magic things you can do with recording, like stop and start. And I'll say there was a bit of that. I'm a little bit a better player now than I was that first week of July when I was recording.
Awesome. Do you want to go through the book a little bit and talk about how and why you were inspired by Deb's book?
Yeah. Well, I have the book right here. And it's a lovely, short and simple book. That's the whole idea behind it. It's called the Tarot Primer. And I met Deborah at a music camp called Three of a Perfect Pair, which happens in the Catskills. And I heard that she had a book out and that it was about tarot. And since I had had fun with the cards growing up, I bought a book. I like to support my friends who make books or albums by getting a copy and checking it out. So I got the book, and it really was nice and simple and kind of connected with the way I think of the tarot cards as sort of self-help guidance. You pick a card, it's random. You try to make some sense out of the card or use your imagination to relate it to whatever's going on with you. And I think that is sort of the magic right there, is that it can help you look at a problem a different way, or kind of resonates with you, like, yeah, I know I'm avoiding that. Well, she talks about you can be your own card reader, your own oracle, by learning to use the cards. And I like that too, because I've never aspired to be a tarot card reader for other people, but I love playing with them, particularly when I'm alone, and looking at the pictures. I'd say the illustrations are what really have stuck with me since childhood. Here's a kind of scary one. This one is swords, and this can mean, a time of recuperation from illness. Some of the cards have people on them. That's why there's a song called People. Pay attention to the people in your life. Here's another very kind of sorrowful one. 9 swords. And let me find a happy one. Let me see here. Well, this is a famous one in, dramas. The Hanged Man sort of means there's nothing you can do. You've just got to wait it out. The Magician. I like to think of this one as my recording engineer, Stefano. The deck I'm showing you is the most widespread deck, called the Rider-Waite deck. Now it's called the Rider-Waite-Smith deck because the illustrator was a woman, last name Smith. And guess what? she didn't get her name on the original publication. But
Interesting.
now recognize, I didn't know that. These are more like what the earlier cards would have looked like without the pictorial stories. They're just kind of just like playing cards. They're really almost the same. You can do card reading with playing cards as well.
All right. Well, thank you for walking us through all of that. We should probably wrap up. For anyone interested in this album, it's super interesting. It's in 2 parts, but it's 1 CD. Voyage of Blackwood is 2 CDs. You can get both of these at the URL on the lower left side of the screen, araleedorough.bandcamp.com. And then you can check out Aralee on YouTube with the URL in the lower right. Aralee Flute is her username there. Aralee, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing about your album. And I think we're going to close with The Fool. So anything you want to share before we go?
Oh, great. I guess I'm the fool. And playing the U8, except for the wonderful lead solo that my son plays on the touch guitar. So he's sort of like the stunt double coming in and taking the solo for me. And it is one of my favorite pieces on the album. I'm a fool for love. I'm a fool for music and art. That's a little bit something Marcus, I think he calls himself fool of music. Anyway, it was a great rhyme and apropos to the lyrics. The card, the fool, is about innocence or foolhardiness or inspiration. Leaping before looking can be risky. So it's also represents the beginning of the journey. So from the fool to the end of the album is sort of a journey told by specific cards. Part 1 is Tarot 101. These are the cards, the suits, the people, the face cards. And then part 2 is sort of the journey.
Right on. And you have your flute out. Are you going to share anything?
That's from Strength. And that one, a little deliberately, is kind of taken from Voyage of Blackwood, Homeward, the flavor of it, which is Lydian mode.
Awesome. All right, let's listen to The Fool.
Always getting started, leaping at heart, I'm a fool for music and art. Watch me blaze a trail on the edge of the cliff. Only one false step and I'll fail. Watch me blaze a trail on the edge of the cliff. Only one false step and I'll fail. Look up, look at us, we're flying. The fools laughing with the raindrops, leaping through the rainbow, dancing on thin air. This card indicates your current situation. You live your life as a fool, without much of a plan. Innocent, probably even content. But there might be more for you on the horizon. Let's turn up the next card.